Have you ever wondered why certain situations trigger you so deeply? Why rejection feels like abandonment? Or why you chase perfection like your life depends on it? It's not random, it's not weakness, it's the echo of something much older, a story that began in childhood. The truth is, most of us are not reacting to the present, we're reenacting the past. Today, we're exploring the childhood wounds that shape who we become, how they silently script our behavior, and how we can finally begin to heal. Every human psyche is built like a house. The foundation is laid in early childhood, long before we're aware of it. Psychologists like Carl Jung and John Bowlby believe that the experiences we have between birth and adolescence become the blueprint for our adult emotional life. Jung wrote that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. In other words, the patterns you repeat, the same type of people you fall for, the fears you can't shake, the limits you can't break, are rarely about now. They're about then. A parent's tone, a teacher's criticism, a childhood moment when love felt conditional. All of it lodges deep in the psyche as invisible architecture, forming the rooms we later get trapped in. Psychologists often describe 5 primary childhood wounds that most adults carry to some degree: abandonment, rejection, humiliation, betrayal, and injustice. Let's look at each, because understanding them is the first step toward freeing yourself. Abandonment. This wound forms when love or attention is inconsistent. Maybe a parent was physically absent, emotionally distant, or simply too overwhelmed to be present. As a child, you internalized a message: people leave. I'm not safe alone. As an adult, this may appear as clinginess in relationships, fear of being alone, or tolerating toxicity just to avoid emptiness. Neuroscience calls this anxious attachment, a survival mechanism that once protected you but now keeps you imprisoned. Rejection. This wound takes root when you feel unwanted, whether through criticism, comparison, or neglect. A rejected child learns to reject themselves first, to avoid the pain of someone else doing it. In adulthood, this manifests as perfectionism or social withdrawal, an inner voice that whispers, "You're not enough." Psychologists call this the inner critic, a voice formed by external judgments that you eventually internalized as truth. Humiliation. Perhaps you were mocked, punished, or shamed for being different. You learned that vulnerability equals danger, and so you built armor. Sarcasm, avoidance, control. But the armor that protected you then now isolates you. You might overcompensate by seeking approval, achievements, or control over how others see you. Betrayal. When a trusted figure breaks your trust, through dishonesty, inconsistency, or manipulation, the child learns that intimacy equals danger. As an adult, you may struggle to trust anyone fully, always expecting disappointment. Even genuine love feels suspicious. Psychologists often trace commitment issues and hyper-independence to this very wound: injustice. Children who grew up in controlling or emotionally cold environments often develop this wound. They learn the world isn't fair, that emotions don't matter, and that the only way to survive is through control or competence. This can lead to rigidity, black and white thinking, and emotional suppression. Inside, there's a silent grief no one ever saw how unfair it was. As adults, we don't just carry wounds, we build identities around them. The abandoned become caretakers, the rejected become perfectionists. The humiliated become achievers, the betrayed become lone wolves. The victims of injustice become controllers. Our coping mechanisms evolve into personalities, and society often rewards them. The overachiever gets promoted. The caretaker is praised for being so kind. But beneath the success, the old wound remains, unseen, unhealed. Psychologist Alice Miller, in her book The Drama of the Gifted Child, explains that many high-functioning adults were once emotionally neglected children who survived by attuning themselves perfectly to the needs of others. They became exceptional at reading emotions, except their own. It's no wonder that even in moments of success, we can feel an emptiness we can't explain. Childhood wounds aren't stored as facts, they're stored as feelings. Every time you felt fear, shame, or loneliness as a child, your brain encoded it into the limbic system, particularly the amygdala. Later in life, similar feelings reactivate the same neural pathways, even if the situation is entirely different. That's why an argument with a partner can feel like your world is ending. It's not just about the present fight. Your nervous system has mistaken it for an old danger. Psychologists call this emotional flashback, a moment when the body remembers what the mind has forgotten. The paradox is that we often try to heal intellectually, reading books, analyzing ourselves, but emotional wounds live in the body. Healing, therefore, must happen both in mind and in nervous system regulation. Therapies like internal family systems, somatic experiencing, and EMDR help by giving a voice to the inner child still frozen in time. If your childhood shaped your pain, it can also shape your healing. Reparenting is the process of becoming the caregiver you once needed. It means validating emotions you were once told were too much. It means saying to yourself, I'm here. I won't abandon you this time. Start small. When you feel triggered, pause and ask, how old do I feel right now? Chances are it's not your adult self reacting, it's a younger part of you. This simple question separates present from past and allows compassion to enter where shame once lived. Psychologist Donald Winnicott described the good enough parent, not perfect, but consistently loving. Be that for yourself now. Consistency heals what chaos created. Every wound unhealed becomes a story retold. Parents who are emotionally neglected often raise children who feel unseen. Those who are controlled become controlling. It's not out of malice, it's unconscious repetition. The late Gabor Maté, a physician and trauma expert, said, "The greatest stress a child can experience is not being seen by the parents. Healing your wounds isn't selfish, it's revolutionary. Because when you heal, you stop passing down the pain you inherited. You become the point where the story changes direction." Many of us equate strength with suppression. We pride ourselves on handling it, moving on, or not letting it affect us. But numbness is not resilience, it's residue. Real strength is the courage to feel again, to sit with the discomfort of old pain and let it soften instead of harden you. When we allow ourselves to grieve the childhood we didn't get, we make space for the adulthood we still can. As Nietzsche once said, one must still have chaos in oneself to give birth to a dancing star. Healing doesn't erase chaos, it transforms it into creation. Awareness is the first crack in the armor. The moment you notice a pattern, your fear of confrontation, your tendency to overgive, your avoidance of love, that's your psyche asking for attention. You don't need to fix it all at once. You only need to witness it without judgment. As Carl Rogers, the founder of humanistic psychology, wrote, "The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change. Awareness turns pain into data. Data becomes insight. Insight becomes freedom." Healing childhood wounds isn't linear. Some days you'll feel enlightened. Other days, you'll fall back into old patterns and think you failed. But remember, regression is part of progress. The brain is rewiring itself, learning that safety can exist without control, love without fear, success without self-sacrifice. The process is slow because it's deep. It's not behavior you're changing, it's biology. And you are not alone. Every human being, beneath all roles and masks, carries an inner child who just wanted to be loved without conditions. Imagine for a moment you could meet your younger self. What would you say? Maybe you'd whisper, "You didn't deserve that." Maybe you'd say, "I'm proud of how you survived." Maybe you'd just hold them and say nothing at all. That's what healing looks like. Not dramatic, not cinematic, but quiet and consistent. A daily act of self-love that gradually rewrites the old script. Because when you stop living from your wounds, you begin living from your wisdom. And that's when the world changes. Not because you force it to, but because you finally stopped repeating what once broke you. So if you find yourself stuck in patterns you can't explain, don't ask, "What's wrong with me?" Ask, "What happened to me?" Your behaviors make sense once you understand their origin. Healing is remembering that you are not your past. You are the awareness that survived it. If this message resonated with you, consider subscribing for more explorations into the human mind and the paradoxes that define our existence. Because the more we understand the psyche, the freer we become from its invisible chains.